Good morning. This is Dr. Matthew Dunn, host of The Future of Email. My guest today, award-winning email marketer, my Zoom friend and acquaintance, Scott Cohen. Scott, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Glad to be here. Finally.
Yay, we get to talk about email. And you're the director of email CRM stuff at Smile Direct Club now, right?
Yeah. So lead conversion is the big goal, top of funnel. So got email, got SMS under my belt now.
Okay, cool. We can talk about that.
Getting into some push as well. So, I like to say, learning new stuff every day. It's exciting.
Now, I have the virtue of some time and acquaintance with you, but also cheating by reading back through your LinkedIn page. I mentioned it, but I think it's worth highlighting. You were last year's Stefan Pollard award winner. You're like top dog email marketer of the year last year.
I was, yeah.
Was that a surprise?
It was. Yeah, it absolutely was. I was like, really? Okay, great. I mean, I think what you find with email marketers in particular is we're really good at just doing our jobs. And we kind of forget about tooting our horn, like I think I've seen other people say it, but I've said it too. Like we're kind of the offensive lineman of marketing, right? Like nobody says anything, nobody says your name unless something goes wrong. You're required to make the offense work. So I'm
going to take your analogy and run with it. Cause actually if there was going to be a poster of prototypical email marketer, it might well have your face on it. Cause you never get ruffled.
Nah.
You always have like a zillion things going, but it's just like, yeah, it's okay. Like a duck swimming really hard underneath, but
the feet are always going underwater. Yeah. The feet are always going underwater. Yeah.
But your analogy about the offensive lineman, I'd extend that and say, email in the digital era still seems like the front line, the contact point of marketing and where the game really starts. And at the same time, it's still kind of the oddball, the not sexy, not the odd man out, but definitely not necessarily when you say marketing, what people think of. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Well, and it's one of those things that, how many times have you been in conversations with people and people you don't know, and they go, "What do you do?" And I go, "I do email marketing."
Yeah.
They go, "Oh, you send me spam."
Right.
And then I go, "No, I send you the stuff you signed up for." And, they go, "Oh yeah." I said, I don't send that other stuff." But then like people just assume, it's classic marketing 101, right? Like that by the time you're tired of it, somebody's finally picking it up. And, I was a copywriter in a previous life. I pay attention to TV ads. I pay attention to that stuff. And by the time I get tired of it, which is a lot sooner than probably normal people, it's like, that's when it's finally starting to get through to people. And I think email is kind of the same way. I think like I said, it is like the offensive lineman because there's expectations for how it's supposed to work. And it only becomes a problem when it doesn't work how people expect it to. And how it doesn't work in quotation marks can mean any number of things to any number of people, right? So, my wife, to this day will come to be like, "So this is probably on purpose, but I got X, Y, and Z from this company." I'm like, "That's absolutely on purpose." And then sometimes I go, "Oh, I bet they don't even know that's running." Like there's so many elements to an email program and there's so much changeover, right? Like this industry, there aren't many of us, Matt. There aren't many of us people who stick around because like you said earlier, the sexy part isn't here. The sexy part is in other channels. Because email is still so cheap. The number of meetings I'm on where the 75% of the conversation is about budgets and paid social.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's because we don't spend money. We're an operational expense.
Well, that may be, you may have just hit on one of the root cause reasons why email isn't the sexy marketing. It's because there isn't someone going, pay the gatekeeper a lot of money to even say hello, right? It's chunkity chunk. It's and because we all day to day, minute to minute, receive and send and read, email. It's like, oh, I do that, so I know what Scott does. Nah, just because I hit send on an email,
Right.
half
It's
an hour
like,
ago, is nothing to do with your job.
copywriting. Everyone thinks, oh, I can write. I can be a copywriter. I'm like, it's a little different. Like, it's a little.
Now, you cut your teeth as an intern at J. Walter Thompson. Talk
Oh
about a great
God.
place to start for
Yeah.
copywriting.
Yeah. That was more like account management type stuff, I mean, God, that was 2003.
Wow.
2003. Yeah. I mean, spent a summer doing, commuting into Washington, D.C. from Northern Virginia, built reports, did whatever was necessary. Wanted to cut my teeth and
Yeah.
did that for a bit, and then went, no, I actually want to do writing rather than that stuff. And so, yeah, I was writing 6 to 10 TV and radio scripts a day
Wow.
in
Wow.
my beginning years. It was a small ad agency in Harrisonburg, Virginia, where I went to school at James Madison. And they did production in-house and then did the media buys as well. So like I literally got to like hand the script off to the videographer, and then he'd go run off. And I mean, you're talking like the local car dealers
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the law offices and, the real estate agents and stuff like that. So it was,
But I would bet, tell me if I'm wrong, I would bet that you developed some, mindset, habit, eye for things that you use every day, all day still.
oh yeah. I mean, the ability to, I mean, I use that experience now. I mean, I'm an email guy, but I work with the creative team all the time, and I can speak their language because
Yeah.
of that, right? And I can go, oh, I need this and I need that, and it needs to be this way, and this should be shortened, and the order should be like this, and and stuff like that. And I mean, literally writing a commercial and then clicking the stopwatch and reading it out loud slowly so that it could work in 30 seconds or 60 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And then going, wait, I don't want to kill my voiceover artist, so let's cut this and cut that and stuff like that. And then, doing layouts for print. And I mean, God, I feel like I'm old school in a lot of ways. Like I worked in print and direct mail and, I wrote websites and all this other stuff. So I feel like I've had like email when I fell into it, like everybody does, like it made sense because I could finally see the results of what I did, right? Like, and direct results, not like,
Results, yeah.
oh, we drove 10% more conversions, but it could have been anything, right? It was, no, this email drove this, and this email drove this. And so that's what, like, it clicked. I'm not a terribly analytical person, but it like clicked to go, oh, I can see what I'm doing,
Mhm.
and then extrapolate why I think certain things are happening.
Right. And then learn from that and refine it.
Yeah.
Next time around, do something slightly different. It's interesting that you said you spent time in actual like physical media as well, because
Oh, I did press checks and everything, man. Like I went to the printers and was looking at the registrations and going, bump up the black and do this. And
that's not
oh yeah,
uncommon in the email marketing space for people who stick with it long enough to say that's the space they're in, for them to have done direct marketing or print or something like that. So, and which is an interesting dilemma for the field of practice, because like finding a 19-year-old who's done direct marketing, there aren't any, right? I don't know where they're
yeah,
hiding, if there are,
yeah.
because my
Well,
mailbox still gets stuff in it, but not much.
well, direct mail is making a comeback, right? Like when I was at Purple, we had a huge, we didn't send to everybody under the face of the sun, but we had really good success with direct mail.
Interesting.
And, I think especially with like the considered, God, I still go through what is it? How many versions of like the local ads? You get like the Valpak, of course, but then you get like, it was like the Hometowner, and there's a couple other ones here where you just flip through and go, what are the restaurants or this or that or whatever? And I go, these only exist because they still work.
Right. That's fair. Yeah.
And like, and I feel like, email is going to work forever because everyone's like, oh, well, teens don't use it. Well, they do.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
Well, you can talk to that really authoritatively, because you spent a couple of years at least guiding email in the university space, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Big channel for university, Western Governors University, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That was, it was interesting. That was like that's where I fell into email was Western Governors. It was, you're writing this stuff. Why don't you just do it?
Okay.
Right. And that's when I fell in love with, like, the building of the programs. Cause I'd done, back in high school, done HTML, like basic web, God, the old GeoCities days, the Angel Fire days, right? Building when my Microsoft front page was a godsend. Remember that? Remember front page? And then the old days where you'd put like little counters at the bottom to see how many people showed up to your little stupid site. Those were the old days, but like those are the little creative things. Like, I like to say I know enough of a lot of things to be dangerous. But to your point, going back to email, like, yes, very effective channel. The university was a little different at that point because it was like we were driving phone calls. So like the metrics were a little bit harder, but we could tell when certain things went out because phone call volume went up, right? Or, if we did the monthly newsletter, applications went up, stuff like that. So like we had moments in time where it's like we had the direct and then the indirect metrics as well. But yeah, it was a huge thing. And then you had to design a program for people who, when you think about going back to school, people can come to you raising their hand at any point in that decision process. They could be ready to go, or they could be like, I'm just thinking about it. I might go back in 2 years. And so you have to design a flow that covers the whole thing. And so I built this program to go, okay, and I'm hoping to God 13 years later, they've rebuilt it. And I think they have. But, it's been a lot of years that if you stayed in each stage of the program for the max amount of time, it was 6 years of email.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's that kind of lifespan.
Yeah.
You're about 5-6 years away from the straight up college deluge as your kids hit that bracket, but college is an interesting.
I don't want to talk about it.
And print. My God, the glossies that show up when you have a college bound kid. We had a basket, 2 boys, right? Both finished with college now, but we had a basket for all of the college porno that would show up in the mailbox. And every campus, gorgeous and leafy and green
But you know what? Those aren't for the kids; those are for the parents. Which is what's funny, right? Like the kids might leaf through it, but it's parent porn.
I'm of a mind, at least Sample said it too, based on watching my sons go through I got them email addresses relatively early on because I've been in the space. I said, you're going to need your own email address. You don't need stuff coming to dad's inbox. We've got them email addresses, and they ignored them. And then as they hit the college on-ramp, and that age bracket, not, whether someone goes to college isn't necessarily the thing that does it. That's when email starts to become a gotta do, and you got to pay attention to it. They were safe ignoring it and being on various other digital channels until about 17, 18. And then all of a sudden it was like, nah, this is part of that grown up land stuff. Is you get an email address and you got to pay attention to it. Tough.
Yeah. I mean, my youngest has an email address through school, but I think it's literally just a login, right? Like it's not like they don't use the inbox for that. My oldest will be 13 in a month, and she will use, teachers will communicate through that. And I think that teacher communication gets, to your point, like more email centric and less about, like, right now we get like the schools will send us stuff and it's like, here's an email. And then they call 5 minutes later to go check your email, which I just, I'm like, oh, the school's an email courier. Got it. Like, did you get my email? But I think that my oldest also has like a personal account that she'll use for like, she's a big Harry Potter person. So it was like Pottermore. And then, I think Minecraft and a couple other things, like some of those gaming things she does with her friends. Like,
so like the sign up bracket, if nothing else, right? I want to use X. Shoot, I want to sign up, or I want to sign up, and I don't want dad going, why'd you sign up for that? So I need my own email address.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think there's that. And I think they're less inclined to give out phone numbers. Like I know someone was like, give an email or give a phone number. Email does supply a modicum of control and a wall. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You can do that more actively with email, which is a benefit and a curse, obviously, for marketers. But she's also not at an age where marketing appeals, right? So,
not yet.
Which is good because no, I don't. Doesn't need to get cynical just yet.
Yeah, we're gonna be swimming in the waters of marketing for kind of forever. If nothing else, the business model of so many digital channels is ad and marketing supported, ad and marketing centric. So I don't see Google rewiring and say we're going to charge for search. I don't think that's going to happen, right? So we're going to have
they could.
monetized. Yeah.
I mean, they've talked about Twitter going private, with subscriptions, and I think if you start there, if you start with the free model, to get people to pay, especially with the just inundation of, like, I don't go on TikTok because I'm already sucked into Instagram now. And I held out on Instagram for a long time, right? Like you're talking about that attention, that attention space. And I remember when, Gmail tabs became a thing and everybody was freaking out. And then, the smarter people in the space are like, just give it a minute. People will go and figure out how they want to use the inbox.
Yeah.
And promotions tab is not a bad thing. If people go there, they're in the mood to shop.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Or deal hunt or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's not, and I think like Instagram is getting close to being unusable because the ads are like, there's a point where the ads are the product and Instagram is getting there.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like it's like the ads are every other thing now, or there's some sort of sponsored post. And I go, no, I came here to see what the people I follow do.
Yeah.
If you sprinkle this, that's fine. But if it's every other one, it's becoming unusable.
Well, even YouTube has that problem now to me.
Yeah.
Like, and a 5-second, got to watch this before. Okay, I get it. You got to pay the bandwidth bill. Fine. But they're getting more insistent on twofers and stuff. It's just like, and at the same time, I think, not to go off on a tangent, but I think YouTube will withstand that because there's content of value for my attention there, right? Like you got a thing that my son and I need to do with his van. And we found this amazing, do this, that cable tutorial on YouTube. That's a mechanic shot. It's like, I'll watch a commercial. This guy's going to save our bacon on this particular challenge. Of course I'll watch the commercial. I'm not going to consciously do anything with it. It's just going to go in one ear and out the other. But okie dokie, we'll do that. And email has not. I know there are companies in the email advertising business, without naming names, but I rarely get an email where where there's something asking for attention, like off topic, sponsored by a completely separate company. Pretty rare in my inbox. You?
Yeah, I would say that would be a miss, right? Like it would be like, it needs to be targeted in that way. Like if I was ever to go down that route as an advertiser to buy space in something else, like I don't want it to be out of left field. Like I don't need, car parts and then I'm selling them, ice cream, like, I mean that, although on a hot day you might want ice cream, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like it needs to be like, why would a car parts place advertise for ice cream? It could.
I agree with you. And given what you said earlier about the real cost of an email program, it'd be like, do it yourself to your actual customers. But I subscribe for a variety of reasons. I get a couple of emails every goddamn day about intellectual property law, and they have ads in them. And the ads are the most orthogonal and stupid things at times. I'm like, why is there a bikini next to that article about patents? I don't understand. This makes no sense to me.
Oh yeah.
Just blast it in there. Like, and I don't think that's not email marketing. That's like using the channel for a completely miss purpose in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? The thing about email is that you're wrong a lot.
Hmm.
Let's put it that way. Like when you test things, like maybe those ads work
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
and we're completely wrong.
Someone's paying.
So yeah, exactly. And that's the, people ask me like, well, what would you say, if you wanted to get an email, what's one thing you would say? I'd say, one, you need patience, and two, you need to be willing to be wrong.
That's good.
Because 90% of the time your test is going to fail or be flat.
Yeah.
And 10% of the time you might get a win. Maybe.
Wow.
In the history of my testing, where it was, especially those little incremental things like, oh, we're going to test this color versus this color. Like I have rarely gotten something just so great. Like, oh my God, purple beat blue by 35% and is statistically significant. Like there's no way. Like it just doesn't, like people think that that's where the testing is. You're not going to win. That's when you do testing so you can tell your boss you're testing. And subject lines often are the same way.
Yeah.
Like in my experience, like, yeah, like it's like, I think about like, we've done work with some of the AI groups out not in my current life, but in previous lives, I've done that. And I just went, maybe we'll see. And the only times that we got statistically significant results were actually when randomly that campaign got into the Google updates tab instead of promotions. And we knew whenever we hit updates, open rates were twice as good.
Interesting. Despite what you said about the promotions tab.
Right. Yeah. Conversion wasn't any better.
Yeah, I was waiting for that.
Conversion wasn't any better, but we're like, oh, we must have hit updates for this one, but not the B version. Weird. Like it was very strange. So, I mean, but and then the patients to have to run that for a while, right? Like in some cases, like you have to run tests for like 2 months or, a month, or at least like somebody goes, oh, you just send one campaign, you've learned something. No, you've learned what that campaign did on Monday the 5th.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Glad to hear someone with your experience say it, because it doesn't seem like you get to move the ball 100 yards with anyone.
No,
throw.
Rarely. Like if the only times you do are when it's a slam dunk. Like I've done it where when I was at Purple, they released for the purple pillow, they released like an insert to make it taller. And so they went, we should mail this to everyone. And I went, no, we should mail it just to the people who bought it before. And it killed. It just killed. Yeah. You're like, wow. I'm like, that was a no-brainer. That was low-hanging fruit. Like those are the things you'll win with. And those are things you hang your hat on. And then you got to do the hard work after that.
Well, yeah, you had done the hard work to be in the conversation, to say no.
No. We target these people. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, but I've also found in my years that what seems like common sense to me isn't. And I think it just comes with experience. And I think anyone who's had experience of any length of time in any field, that I kind of feel like that's the same way. Like maybe that's part of the imposter syndrome where you're like,
isn't this obvious? Doesn't everybody?
Isn't this obvious? Yeah. So it's no.
I shortened that, and I think I said it so many times. My kids smack me if I say it, but I said common sense isn't.
Yeah,
it's just not. Right?
It's not.
It's very valuable. So when you earn it in a particular field, like that's actually why you hire someone in that field. Like they think this is all obvious, right? Imposter syndrome aside. You'd said something earlier. I wanted to hook back to about that the sign up, the sign up role of an email address, and among the many reasons why I snort coffee through my nose when I see yet another article saying email is going to die, is like, no, it's not, because it's the de facto most common sign up mechanism by a long margin. And, and if nothing else, you build a new system, build multiple SaaS platforms. So you're like, well, how should we have people sign up? And you know what? You're going to end up on email and password, no matter what other stuff you stick in the way. You're going to end up with that. Why? Because it's just how stuff works, right? They're in
Yeah.
control of that address and a zillion other reasons. And the day someone says, we need your text or you can't sign up for our service, it'll be like, lost customer. Too bad. Right? Not going to sign up.
Well, and I think about like they've made a lot, and I think Apple's pushing this way, the whole like password free world that we're apparently pushing toward, right?
We'll see.
But you have to have an underlayer. There
Yes.
has to be a layer of
Yes.
some sort of security / whatever. You have to have an email address or phone number, could be either one. But, I'll give you phone number. A lot of people, a lot of other places in the world don't have computers, they have phones. But even then they likely have email addresses to some extent. Right. And then a password that, you may not need to have the password all the time, but there needs to be some sort of encryption, some sort of, login element to it, right?
Yes, it's me. Yeah,
exactly.
That's fine. Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so you touched on it. Let's go there. It seems to me, looking from the lens of the email space, that as the intimacy of the smartphone has settled down, and there's really two companies that matter in that device space, that they're now starting to sort of duke it out for making that thing such a fundamental key to your life. Apple's pass something, I forget what it's called, is an example of that. Apple would say, well, look, you're going to have this thing in your pocket. It's actually better than passwords because you're going to have this in your pocket. I'm like, yeah, but that means Apple's actually in control of my login to everything, not me. And that kind of ticks me off. I don't want that. Right? He said maintaining X hundreds or thousands of passwords voluntarily, right? Will I keep doing that? I probably will, but I suspect people might migrate to that because of the device in the pocket phenomenon. And I see the same device in pocket who controls that device layer. I see that as mattering in the email space. I posted about this a while back, like Gmail's market share of inboxes plus 66% at this point, right? Why? In part because of their footprint in the pocket.
Yeah.
Because because they've got a device that's with you all the time, they can start making moves that'll matter 10 years down the line. And it's really Apple v. Google at that layer right now.
Well, and I think that's interesting, right? Because everyone assumes Apple has this giant majority in the smartphone space, right? And that's just not true.
Just in the US,
slight majority, but Android owns overseas, right? Like Android there. So you have Gmail, and you have to have a Gmail address. Imagine that to have an Android phone. So, Gmail is better than Apple Mail.
Agreed.
And I say that as someone who has an iPhone and I don't use the Apple Mail, like anything. So my work email doesn't go through it. My personal Gmail doesn't go through it. So, and I might be weird.
Email. You said
I might be weird.
Email.
God, I've had Gmail since 2004, so and I don't use the first email address I have because the one thing I hate about Gmail is that they don't respect periods. Scott, I have Scott.Cohen.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
And you can have anything with that and I'll get the email. I've gotten emails for people in New York. I've gotten legal contracts. I've gotten like all sorts of stuff. And I usually go like, wrong person. This looks important. But yeah, it's the battle for the inbox is interesting. I still have a Hotmail account and I only use it for Amazon because I had Hotmail and Amazon pre-Gmail and I just never moved it over. And I'm like, it's fine.
Well, it's good education in a particular field to still have a Hotmail account, right? Watch what does it blow your doors that nobody has played an effective game of catch up ball with Gmail? It kind of baffles me. Does no one else see the utility value of that? Wow. Microsoft, Yahoo, none of those guys.
Well, I think it's also ridiculous that nobody's come up with a standard for rendering. Like any semblance of a standard for rendering.
You mean email rendering?
Yeah. Like email, like it's, and
Yeah.
For all these guys that come out and say we're all about the customer, like, could you make it look good
Mm,
so that it's usable?
mm-mm, mm-mm.
And
No,
yeah,
it's odd. And we got to look in the mirror and say, and there's not enough of an industry body in the email space to come up with a committee to come up with a standard and say, all you guys use this, right?
yeah.
It's not going to happen. Email HTML is going to suck probably for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, it's always fun when you show email code to a web developer and their head just goes,
Boing, yeah, head
yeah,
explodes. I haven't seen
yeah,
tables since I was a kid, right?
yep.
Something like that.
Can you guys use this? Nope. Can you use this? Nope. Can you use this? Nope.
It's
Why not? Because we have to have it make sure it renders in Microsoft Word for Outlook.
right. And
Outlook has gotten better. I
has it?
will say that.
Yeah.
It's gotten better. It's especially on mobile. Like I have mine in dark mode because I'm like, I need one in dark mode just to like, I personally,
Yeah.
it's funny. Like I'm mostly light mode, but Twitter, I'm dark mode, and Outlook, I'm dark mode.
Huh.
But on my phone, everything else is light mode. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm doom scrolling on Twitter at night, but but yeah, it's hard to remove your marketer hat from your user hat. Like I will never be a normal customer ever again. Right? Like we can't be.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that's why I think when my copywriter days, I read, David Ogilvy on advertising and stuff like that. And he said, your customer's not an idiot. She's your wife. And so like I use my wife all the time. Like, what would you think of this? And even then, like just through osmosis, I think she's gotten a little bit more marketing savvy over the however many years I've been doing this. So, but I still go like, what do you think about this? And she's like, oh, that's terrible. And then, so it's good to have that like outside view on things.
Well, so we've agreed somewhat implicitly that there are some aspects about email that aren't going to change, HTML,
right,
etc. What is going to change? What's some of the future hold? What do you think?
I've been giving this a lot of thought, and the honest answer is I don't know. I don't like broad terms, right? I think that it's going to, and I would say this isn't changing necessarily, but it'll only it will change, but only for the worse, right? Is I think that the inbox will continue to be more crowded. That as much as, the channel's been told that it's dying for years, which is, I think at this point, one, it's wrong, and two, I should probably stop saying anything about it. Like Amazon, for example, just came out.
Yeah.
And they're going to start for their merchants, they're going to start allowing them a limited set of emails to send out to the customers they have through Amazon, because Amazon's a black box, right? So like in my current world, we have our oral care line, that we have our direct, and then there's like the Amazon store. And we don't know this. We don't know the mesh point of, customers who get our emails and then go to Amazon, right? Which I think Amazon has a crap ton of merchants. So it's good for the merchants. It may not be good for the customer, but it looks like, and we don't know enough. I mean, this is literally a week or two ago that they announced this. And I saw the article, and it looks like it's like repeat customers, best customers. And there's a third audience, and they're putting in guardrails. Like you can only mail this group once every 14 days. And I would assume that they're protecting themselves, because if they have to manage all the deliverability there, that's a nightmare. Two, I haven't seen the terms, but I would imagine they'll throw people off in a hurry. They'll have to be even more, I wouldn't say punitive, but strict than like MailChimp, for example. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But if you and I don't know if there's like a vetting process where you have to be qualified for the program and stuff like that, or they're just going to go, hey, you have these 3 programs, go for 1.5 million merchants or whatever they have on there. It'll be, I know it's still in beta, and it's like we're 6 months out, I think, for GA on that, but that'll be interesting to watch. because how many people are going to see that as Amazon versus the brand?
Right.
And then even though it's every 2 weeks, if you've ordered from 150 merchants, it's going to get really interesting.
It's a lot of stuff. Yeah.
And so that's something to watch. I would say the political, decision of Gmail and the FEC with, it's not 100% certain how much they're going lax on the rules for political emails, but laxer than they already are in terms of filtering. I'm not sure what the impact of that's going to be. The people who are politically active will, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know how much they just grab lists and email people, right? Like just random people, right? Like I don't know how bad that is, and if that's going to get worse. Like it's not one of those. Like I don't know how bad it's going to be, but I know it's going to make it harder, even harder than it is now. I think it's going to cause, and this is true, and it's smart marketing. It's going to cause email marketers to work more closely with other channels within their organization, because we talked about that attention economy earlier. Like you're going to have to use other channels to drive action, and vice versa, right? Like there should be more of that cross-channel feel.
Call and say, "Did you get my email?" Text and say, "Did you get my email?"
Did you see my Instagram ad?
Yeah.
But I think about the things that I've bought in the past year that I normally wouldn't have bought have come from paid social. Getting my attention, and then I sign up, get their emails for a bit, get the offers, and convert.
Yeah.
So, and I'm an email marketer.
Yeah.
And I'm acting that way.
Yeah.
So it's,
you know what you're signing up for, quite literally.
Yeah, literally. So it's, I think that there's going to need to be more of that, and putting yourself in a position as an email marketer to. I mean, I did a whole talk on it at the EEC conference about metrics beyond opens and clicks, and direct last click attribution, because it's crap. It's crap. I mean, it's fair, but it's crap. And so getting how you spin up support for other channels and broader campaigns, and how you make yourself look good in this just garbled attention economy.
Yeah.
Will I think it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better.
Just a quick side note on the Gmail FEC deal. I what's the word I'm looking for? Rode herd on a discussion about that topic a couple of weeks ago, and I was pleasantly surprised when some of the more deeply technical deliverability folks, and some with a real footprint in the political email space, said, we looked at the sign up to become a certified whatever sender of political email on Gmail, and the bar is so cotton pick and technically high. A, almost nobody's going to qualify. B, if they're doing all that stuff already, they're already in the inbox. So interestingly enough, Google's getting, Ben Thompson would call it a strategy credit. They're going to get the, look, you're playing level playing field out there in the world of political emails. But truthfully, if they kept the bar that high, they're probably not going to have enough people sign up where it's really that much work.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
it's probably good. Yeah,
it's probably not good.
Well, it's sort of like Apple when they turned to privacy a few years ago, and it's like, it's more of a strategy credit than anything else. Yeah, so it's a PR play, right? Like if they do this, one, they're keeping the bar where it should be, but two, they're getting political parties off their asses about it.
Right.
So
Like,
oh, you want to do this? Just do this, just like everybody else. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let me throw a different future of email curveball at you, just springing off the inbox is going to get even busier. I got a text the other day, which is in itself interesting. I got a text from a close friend of mine. She's a counselor. Like, she has nothing to do with tech. Would probably say, I don't like that stuff. But she read an article about one of the platforms out there that it's an AI writer. And she said, this kind of bothers me. It seems like cheating that, you have an AI write your letter, article, whatever else. So I went and found an article about Dali, the AI art generator, and sent it back. And I said, strap on, my friend.
Yeah.
It's going to get even noisier. Why? Because the work of making bad text and bad art is going to get outsourced to silicon, which means we're going to get more of it, which means the inbox is going to have even more crap in it. Yes?
For sure. I mean,
Yeah.
why? People go, why does spam exist? I go, because it works.
Because and because it doesn't have big cost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why it works, right? If the cost of entry was high,
right. Yeah.
they wouldn't do it.
Right.
And if I've always said, like, if you can send 1 million emails and get one purchase that covers the cost, you're going to keep sending 1 million emails.
Yeah,
so
your inbox, right?
yeah, I mean, it is the double-edged sword of the channel, right? Like, we are cost efficient, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. So, these AI drivers, you get a lot of these one-person shops. I've been a one-person team before. It's if you don't have to worry about certain pieces of your program,
yeah,
it's just built for you. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't
right? And so and the scary thing is the smart people in the room will go, let me write something and then put it up against the AI. What happens if the AI starts winning more often than not? And there are some companies out there that, some of the AI for subject lines and things like that's their bailiwick, right? That's what they say.
Yeah.
And so, what happens if that happens? Oh my God. Like, if it's a brilliant play for those companies if they can prove the concept, right? If they can do it. It gets scary because then you're removing limitations, and that
removing even more cost.
Yes.
Channel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a big deal. And while the whole channel working may be cost efficient, what's always irked me about it, will always irk me about it, is it is not attention efficient, right? It treats end user attention as an externality. Oh, it doesn't matter if he's got 30,000 unread. Matters to me, but oh well.
But the cynical side of me goes,
you could unsubscribe.
Well, there's that. But I was just saying that the other side of it is, yes, sometimes all you need is seeing it in the inbox. You don't even open it. You don't click it. You don't do anything. You just go, oh yeah, I'll go order.
Yeah.
I mean, when I worked at 1-800-CONTACTS, that happened all the time. People,
sure.
It's like, your bill is due. Oh, I'll go pay my bill. Like, you don't necessarily need the active engagement to get what you want.
Right.
And that's why, which is scary because that makes the whole use case and the whole concept of AI writing like, well, if it just matters being there, then we can just do the work to get you there. Right. And that's scary, but it depends on but at the other side of it is the reason that we exist, Matt, you and I exist, is because it's not that easy once you get beyond the first layer. Like, if all you care about is burn and churn, then AI is fine. But if you want to get smart, is AI there? I mean, AI is getting smarter about segmentation. It's getting smarter about this, but you still have to have somebody that feeds all the stuff in, right? And monitors the output. And I mean, I hate to say, the humans will always be needed for that kind of work. But if you're sitting there as a copywriter going, I can't write the same damn subject lines 35 times. Let me ask this computer to give me some ideas. It's not a bad thing.
True. Yeah. And the notion that AI is a different level of cheating than itself. I mean, honestly, come on. Side story, but funny. When I've gone through the exercise of branding various things, company services, whatever else, one of my own cheat codes is I think of all the words I can, throw them in a bucket, and then put them down column A and across row 1 in Excel, and then write a formula that just goes, join them, and then start reading the combinations. And invariably, it's like, son of a gun, I never would have thought to put those two things together, but that's actually kind of compelling. So is that cheating? Is that outsourcing the, yeah, whatever. I don't care. I don't care. Right.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think when you use it in place of human capital,
Mm.
that's when, and that's the future of the world, right? Like how much is human capital versus technological capital,
Yeah.
and that, that percentage is changing every year, which we're not even going to get into the politics of and everything like that, because we don't have 7 years to talk about it. But like that's, we talk about like the history of email or the future of email,
Yeah.
it's like how much of it becomes AI driven, like, the CDPs of the world, and, what's the tech overlap there, and how much of that, the CDPs are trying to get, they're whitelisting, SendGrid or Twilio or whatever. Like they're doing all of that because they know that if they can present somebody with a one-stop solution, they're fine, right? And then you have there's the philosophical argument of everything in one bucket versus
Mm-hmm.
pick the technology that is experts at what you want them to do separately, right?
Yeah.
And usually most companies are somewhere in between. I just think that's where the future lies, is like understanding that the job's going to get harder, and it's going to get harder for everybody. I mean, think about how much of a hit Facebook took with iOS 14.5, and how much of a hit, really not a hit, on email, but the mail privacy protection is having an impact. But I think it's forcing marketers to focus on what matters, which is conversion. But you mentioned the email advertisers, like those guys probably taking a hit, right? Because they were based off of opens and eyeballs, not necessarily conversions.
Yeah.
So
yeah. The bikini in the
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. Like,
So, and it's like, oh, we're getting 55% open rate now.
nuh-uh.
Not really. So yeah, it's an interesting world, man. It
It's an
really is.
interesting world.
And like my kids, they're 12 and 8, and they've never known a world without an iPhone.
Right. Yeah.
And they've never, I mean, God, the rotary phone is not something, I mean, I'm young enough that rotary phone was mostly aged out by the time, I was using phones, but I still knew how to use one. So,
And you
but
still got to do direct mail.
and I did I did direct mail like a year ago. Like the direct mail is a thing, because you find where, I mean, think about it, email broke through because the mailbox was silly and you could take it anywhere with you, right? Like the mobility of email is what had it catch on. Now the inbox is insane.
Yeah.
So of course your mailbox at home, your outside mailbox, a physical piece, even if you don't use it, I mean, how excited do you get when you get mail? I mean, at our age, it's a lot of bills, but it's a little different. But like when I was a kid, if I got a piece of mail, oh my God.
Yeah, it was a big deal. Yeah.
It's a big deal. And that really hasn't gone away for the stuff I actually want to get, like, my Golf Digest and stuff like that. I'm like, yes, it came. Yeah. And so, or just the sheer volume of Amazon boxes that we get.
Well, totally. And I like, oh, what's in that Amazon box? Because I forgot what the heck, even though it was probably 1 or 2 days ago, I forgot what the heck it was.
Well, and does your wife use your account for Prime?
You know what? Oddly enough, we have 2 separate Prime accounts. Idiotic, but we can't seem to find the discipline to reconcile.
Let this be the time, because my wife uses mine for every time of year except buying my Christmas presents.
Yeah.
Like she has her own just for that, right? So 9 out of 10 times, I have no clue what's coming up to the door. Like, what did you order? Oh, I got this. All right. So
okay. Yeah. Okay. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I had a son that flew right out of my head about that channel. Let me ask you this question while as we head towards wrap up here. You handle you said you handled text messaging as
And
well.
push. Yeah.
And push. Okay.
Yeah. We're starting to get into push. Yep.
How are you, as a super experienced email marketer, what's it feel like getting your hand on the knobs for those channels? How different are they?
SMS is really effective.
Mhm.
I kind of knew it, but like that is the classic, what you do personally, you should not affect onto other people, because I can't stand SMS in terms of a shopping channel. Like I hate it. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
But people love it. And so it's really effective. It is the little intricacies of like the number of segments and like how you build them and like the characters and special characters and how like SMS is a cost center.
Mm.
Like email is not really a cost center,
Yeah,
right? But SMS is a cost center. So
because every
that's
message costs.
every message costs, and every 160/154 characters costs.
Yeah.
Right. So, you really get into like testing becomes really interesting. It becomes more about how much do I have to say? Like, the old email, like, oh, only do one CTA and make it short. Like, but you could do a freaking novel in an email if you wanted to. I mean, have you seen Costco's emails? They don't care. They cut off on Gmail every time I get one. But clearly it works because they keep doing it. I hope it's not just, they're just throwing stuff out there. But SMS, you could write a novel.
Yeah.
But you'd have to pay so much, and especially internationally. Like, the things I've learned, like UK is 10 times as expensive as the US.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Something like 8 to 10 times. I can't remember the exact number, but it's like absurd. And so you find yourself going, do we need 2 segments? Do we need 3 segments? Can we do this without an image? Because an image costs 4 times as much as a regular SMS.
Right.
Do you need the image or not? Emojis make segments become 70 characters instead of 160 or 154. So, and like special characters like trademarks, stuff like that, like those make a difference in your costs. And so a lot of your testing becomes segmentation of, do we need these people? It's almost like email a little bit on steroids, in that you have the cost driving a lot of the strategy, because you go, we want to find where we're most efficient at the least cost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I really like that. And push we're not there yet. Like, we're in the infancy stages. That'll be interesting to see as well. But you'd have to have an app to follow up with that, right? So that's where, that's stuff we're building on right now. But SMS is really fascinating, because you can sit there and go, we may need 1 segment for this group. We may need 4 for this group. It just depends. And then making sure that 4 segments are actually 4 segments.
And area code is no longer a reliable predictor of place. So at least,
well, especially if you're using short codes like most marketers do, it doesn't really matter. So
yeah. Well, no, I'm talking about the customer place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
No, true.
you have very little. They're a cipher, right? They're a 10-digit cipher for a while, and maybe one of the cost justifications for that CDP vendor who keeps bugging you is, if you tell us, if we can actually learn more about these guys, then we can, segment, manage, etc. Because we can't just blast at them all the time.
Yeah.
It's too cotton pick and expensive.
And the other piece of that is you don't really get engagement metrics, right? Like, you could get some clicks through back end UTMs, but it's 98% open rate. It's like, sure. They might look at it just to get rid of the bubble, like they aren't actually reading it, right? There's no like litmus level, not as far as I know. Happy to be proven wrong there. Because believe me, I want those metrics, but like, you don't get the reads, you get some of the click information. Do they convert in the same session? I don't know. That's where last click becomes kind of that, who knows? So but it is highly effective. And I will say that.
I'm glad. I'm intrigued to hear you say that. And SMS mobile device first. I mean, there may be, geeks like me who look at their messages on their, desktop, but we're not many of us, right? So it's mobile first. It's a lifetime address. I think that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not changing mobile numbers. No,
right? Not anymore. No,
not anymore.
Yeah.
So the asset, the value of that asset and the relationship pinned to those 10 characters It's a big deal, right? If you say yes for a long time, that's really useful to your business. I subscribed to a couple of, one was golf, one was something else, text messaging, marketing, texting things, just to see what happens. And sure enough, like you said, when the sucker goes off, if nothing else, I make the bubble go away because
Yeah.
it interrupted me. And I always
Well,
look.
that's the thing, right? Like it's incredibly intrusive
It's incredibly intrusive
and yet effective for now.
but
Whereas
I
like
don't want the same
email,
quality.
no, and
No.
no. But like I think about a test I ran where, to test costs, right? And we've been sending twice a week.
Mhm.
And it was like, well, do we need to send twice a week? Or can we send once a week? And so I carved out a piece and went, okay, well, these people get once a week, the rest will get twice a week as normal. Let's see what happens over 6 weeks. Again, patience. You have to let it run for a while. You got to have enough volume to get statistical significance. And the twice a week was not just double, it was incremental growth. And so I was like, oh, okay then.
Now we know that.
Now your business can be completely different.
Yeah, that's true. The nature of your business is a big piece of this. Like the text about it's always on sale, miraculously. The text about golf stuff. At some point, I'm going to go, oh, frick, how do I unsubscribe? Right? Because I'm actually, I don't buy that much golf stuff. Never going to.
But I think that's going back to the future. And, I get, what do I need to think about? Like I get new people who are newish to the industry that ask me questions and I'm happy to do it and love having those conversations. But it's like, there are certain things that I've done strategically over the years that at a high level don't change. Like, where do you start? You always start with welcome. You always start with whatever your version of abandoned cart is. Like those are the high touch points. Those are the low hanging fruit, right? How you do it changes with every company you work for.
Yeah.
There's no like prescribed, oh, you do a 3 email series for this, you do a 3 email series for that. Like there's no, like that might be a starting point, but then you have to build out, right? And then, so it's like the high level things never change, but the ground level things change all the time. And it's different, and it's different based on you would think I was agency side for a while. I had clients in the same industry. They were competitors and their list acted differently.
Oh, wow.
And you would think
Yeah.
they would act somewhat the same. And they didn't.
Interesting.
So you just got to dive in and yeah,
it sounds like you're not going to get bored in this space, which is wonderful to hear.
You don't get bored in this space. You can't get bored in this space. Like because there's always going to be, again, there's an offensive lineman. There's always going to be someone coming down the pipe that wants to knock your program off balance, right?
That's awesome. And I love your last with the high level, low level. Maybe the lead line in notes about this show and a good note to close it. Nice thoughts about the future of email. Thank you.
No, thanks. I didn't think I had anything when we started. So
yeah, I knew you
got to suss it out.
Well, we'll wrap and let you go do email marketing. My guest has been Scott Cohen. Thank you, Scott. It was wonderful to talk with you about this stuff.
Absolutely, Matt. Anytime.